So before we do anything causal, let's just wrap up one thing I try to let you know. That is the link between the legal origin and the CSR or ESG. In the world, here are the major legal systems in the world: common law, civil law, and socialism law, and some other legal systems. And which one, in which countries, you can observe higher ESG? That is the question. Scandinavian, yeah, because? Yeah, and how about civil law and common law? Which one do you think is associated with higher ESG? Right. Let's look at whether what you said is true or not. So the idea is, yeah, the legal system is very fundamental thing that determine the provide of public goods in the market. The ESG is public goods because that is to ensure the well-being of the majority of the people, and the legal system to influence ESG is through the regulation and laws. And let me see, discretion or government involvement in business. Now we're going to briefly compare two legal systems. In the common law countries, they typically rely on private market outcome. So common law countries do not like to intervene the intervention of the operation of firms. The firms can just do whatever they want to do in terms of what is demanded by the market. So that's more up to the decision of the firm. So it's the common law country origin is more discretion-oriented system that supports private market outcome. And there are few ex-ante restrictions on managerial behaviors and favors shareholder protection. What means no ex-ante restrictions? That means in common law countries, they don't like too much regulation because the legal system is quite complete. If there is a very fraudulent CEO took your money, the CEO going to be sent to prison because the legal system is efficient, it's fair. You don't need a lot of ex-ante regulation before that. Oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. They more respect the outcome of the market. So the common law countries is quite opposite. So as I said, French civil law countries started by Napoleon. He borrowed the idea from the Roman law. So when the law was written and designed, the idea was to leave sufficient room for the government to intervene people. So ESG is something which is good for the public. So the government thought, oh, I can't let the provision of public goods all on my shoulder. I want you to share that with me. So the civil law country is going to promulgate a lot of regulations because the poor protection of people's rights, they typically tend to have as a buffer. Even in terms of the ESG, they're gonna tell you what is encouraged, what is not encouraged, and they try to induce a shareholder value. So the result is exactly, I think, as you expected. Here is the strength of ESG or CSR in the world. Darker the color, more ESG they are doing. So talking about socialism countries, or former socialism countries, those countries are the country where ESG or the well-being of the public is emphasized all the time. But if you look at China and Russia, they have very, very poor ESG performance. They say it a lot, but do not really implement it. But in terms of the other countries, as you said, Scandinavian has the strongest performance for ESG. But in general, common law, civil law countries I think common law countries give you better protection, and that can be shown in this regression model. They are having a constructed ESG database for all the companies, not all companies, many companies from as many as 120 countries in the world, and they have many separate. Them are about social value and protection, etc. But I think the main one, after you control for year fixed effect, industry fixed effect, and what they find is when you have the French civil law country as a benchmark. Give me a second. This is a French civil law, so French civil law is not a benchmark. Sorry, let me say it again. We use common law country as a benchmark. Then the coefficient of those three shows Scandinavian country give you higher ESG and followed by French and followed by German. Did I say common law country gives higher ESG? I didn't say that, right? If I said that, that's wrong. So civil law countries give you higher ESG because that is outcome of the government intervention. Government want the private sector to share the provision of public goods. So they want, then they promulgate a lot of regulation to tell you what to do. So that's the outcome of it. But for common law countries, you just do whatever which is good. If ESG is good, you do it. Some of the ESG is rubbish, and you don't do it. So you do not excel in those forms. And this is another regression model which they control some additional variables, such as ROA. And what they find out is throughout the different countries, higher ROA is not necessarily associated with either higher or lower ESG because it's simply not significant. They interpret that as results from the global setting. There's no strong evidence for win-win situation. Win-win situation, you would expect there's going to be maybe positive related to each other. However, it's not, the test is just a basic OLS regression model. There's no instrumental variable, so you can't really trust it. And secondly, you can't control country fixed effect, because if you control country fixed effect, your interest variable going to disappear because every country's legal system does. You control that, your legal origin variable is going to be dropped in the regression model. You can't have that. So here's the results. Legal system is definitely very fundamental to the choice of ESG, and civil law countries give you higher protection, especially the Scandinavian countries. Okay, let's take a 5 minutes break, then we finish the rest of the slides. Anyway, let's finish this bit before we talk about the exam. So there are a couple of issues related to the results I showed you. It's based on OLS, no instrumental variable. So there are some alternative interpretations of the results. And therefore, for ESG study, we're going to pay more attention on the causal effect. And the particular question we're going to examine today is whether the win-win vision exists. We talked about that in the first class, but whether it's real. Or putting it in another way, whether ESG or CSR is simply a symptom of the agency problem. It represents the managers diverted your resources away. Then the money should go to you, and you decide which charity initiatives you want to support. But now they just waste the money for you, yeah, you don't get anything. It doesn't sound as good as it should be. So In order to test that, we also need to face empirical challenge, overcome empirical challenge, which is endogeneity problem. Now, there are two related regression models we can be critical about. The first one, ESG or CSR on the left. And on the right, we want to put the agency problem. We want to see the agency problem and the ESG, whether they are significantly correlated with each other. But what is the agency problem? You can possibly use the number of fraud of the company, or you can possibly use a measure of the governance quality. We typically use board independence. But what's the problem for this one? How independent the board you want to be, and how many CSR you want to make. Both of them are firm's choice, right? That could be firm determining them simultaneously based on some other things. You can control some variables, but you can't control everything. There must be something you do not control, which could give you the unobserved variable bias, which is as a result of you fail to incorporate something, then that give you a bias of estimation of the regression model. And also, how about this regression model? You want to look at the win-win situation. Better CSR, better performance. Likewise, you don't know which caused which. Higher CSR got more performance caused this, or it could be something you did not incorporate here, whether it's driven by industry effect, driven by legal system, driven by everything. So basically both regressions are rubbish. You can ignore them. So if you write the dissertation based on this, no, you're gonna fail. So you need to think about and the postgraduate level, right? And one of the leading university in the world, you need to have come up with a convincing methodology about, right, whether win-win vision exists. So I'm going to teach you one approach this group of authors have been made. Please. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, typically you measure them by looking at the affiliation of them. If they do not work for the company, you can regard external variables. But not all. If the regression is based on the exogenous shock, for example, the sudden death of the CEO, a CEO can give you very, very convincing results. But for a very, very noisy situation like I showed you before, both X and Y are the firm choice, and even you document something significant, it's hard to interpret. So the idea of this author said, oh, we can't use, what's going to be the best measure for agency problem? You can't use fraud or something because fraud is outcome. And when companies are captured by fraud, they are under pressure to being more legitimate. And therefore, they're going to think about, let's do some ESG, you know. So there could be an effect. Or both the fraud and ESG could be outcome of the board decision. Maybe they're related to either the expertise in the board independence, or other things. So say, okay, I don't like it. So instead, if you come up with some measures for ex-ante corporate governance quality. What is ex-ante? Typical measure of corporate governance quality are from the board, like the expertise, like the board independence, etc. But ex-ante corporate governance quality means this company hasn't happened agency problem, but they are more likely to make that happen. In what kind of company you will see that? So agency problem typically refers to that you divert resources of the company for personal benefits. But that means at least the company have something for you to divert to. If the company make no profit, what are you going to do, right? You want to waste some money of the company, but if the company doesn't have any money left, you can't waste them. So they have a number of measures. The first one is cash flow, free cash flow, capital expenditure. So those three measures shows how many cash are in the companies. Capital expenditure means you want to spend a lot to buy buildings, buy a lot of things. a company have a lot of spending, kind of like cash, that give you more rooms, give you more discretion to pursue private benefits. Although it hasn't happened yet, it's just that you're more likely to see this in those kind of companies. And the other two, the next one is leverage and dividend payout. Lower leverage means banks do not monitor you. If you borrow a lot, in addition to the shareholders, the bank's going to monitor you because your transactions are recorded by the bank. The bank going to pay attention on your transactions. And the dividend payout. If you earn a lot of earnings, you distribute that to the people, to the shareholder by dividend. That means you don't have much left. Then you can't waste it. A typical example we always refer to is a corporate jet. Buying corporate jet is very common in the United States because the money didn't distribute it to the shareholders. The company accumulate a lot of cash, and they don't have that many good investment to make. Oh, how about buy a corporate jet? Then they buy a jet to flying the executives around the world. He buy first class ticket, but other surrounding seats are buying by his bodyguard. But he bought it for them too. So overall, it's not cheap either because have you ever taken first class? So for here to United States, one-way ticket is 10,000 pounds at least. That's one ticket, but he will take several, right? So that's maybe as expensive as a private jet. So anyway, so that but I think he will have one soon. That's according to what people say. So they use a couple of measures and look at the link between those 6 variables and also the CSR. Right? Let me repeat again. The reason we like those 6 is because those 6 are ex-ante measures for corporate governance qualities. The agency problem hasn't happened, but likely it's going to happen. And look at when it happened, what are going to be the outcome of the ESG. But of course, those 5 measures are not perfect. There could be a lot of critiques. People are going to say, oh, I don't like them because they are related to the, let's say, ability of CEO. Assuming a company will have a lot of this, that means CEO is capable. If a CEO is very capable, maybe CEO have a different taste of ESG, going to drive your ESG results. Something like that. As long as you do not incorporate those things as a control variable, people can make up a story too. So they use an instrumental variable approach. This is the idea. So what are the instrumental variables, right? Like I can tell we was using that. Assuming one company is in industry A, another company is in industry B, to instrument those 5 variables, they use an industry median average of that. Medium is not average, sorry. If it's medium, can't be average. Let me say that again. In the industry medium level of the 5 measures as the instrumental variable. Let me give you an example. I don't use your score as the score to input. I use the average score or the medium score of every different class as the instrumental variable to predict your score. This is their idea. They thought, okay, every industry operates differently, and therefore the medium firm in that industry represent the typical performance or typical cash flow of that companies in that industry. So we use that to predict. But if you review those instrumental variable by using the 5 criteria I told you, it's not exogenous, it's not random, it's rubbish, yeah. But this is the best they can figure out because in some cases we do not have a perfect IV, then we go for the secondary, which is makes some sense but not perfect. So this is what they use. Industry medium level of those 5. For example, if you want to instrument capital expenditure, you use the industry medium. Use the leverage, industry medium leverage. So this is the idea. And the result shows that they report the first stage and second stage together. Then the first stage, we use industry medium to predict cash. In the industry medium cash flow to predict the cash flow of the particular company. There are 3 stars that's significant at the 1% level, so it's very good. And in the second stage, we use the predicted cash to regress on CSR, and that means it's negative. Let me say that again. When you have a lot of cash, you are more prone to the agency problem. When you are more prone to the agency problem, you're going to reduce your CSR. That means CSR and agency problem are positive or negatively correlated. A higher agency problem, higher agency problem, a lower CSR. They are negatively correlated, right? So negatively correlated means agency problem, no, ESG is now a symptom of the agency problem. They are actually more in line with each other. So the companies which doing a lot of ESG are the companies which are more free to the agency problem. This is the idea of the paper. So the win-win vision do exist according to what I find out. Because this is panel data, so they are able to control firm fixed effect. And they also do the time fixed effect as well. Okay, so we don't like that one. So it's not something we like the exogenous variable that we like. Anyway, it's the one that we use. Test the implication of ESG on shareholder value. We're going to do something more novel, more convincing. Because ESG is a decision that firms should choose to do it. So people can, a major challenge of that is whether the type of people, the type of firms, or the nature of the firms, or type of the people, that actually drive the ESG, both the ESG and the shareholder value. And therefore, it's very hard to design this in the traditional type of OLS regression model. Instead, they find a random sample, which is in which firms do ESG randomly. It sounds weird, right? Because corporate decisions are serious decisions. You can't see any corporate decisions are randomly designed. It's not likely to happen. But they look at one particular case, that is every year in the shareholder meeting, you as a shareholder, you can submit some proposals. There are some proposals were about CSR or ESG, and people vote for the proposal. If there's a majority of that, over 50%, it's going to pass. And you're going to have to implement it as a firm. If it's receive the support of lower than 50%, then reject it. Nobody needs to do it. So whether it pass or not pass, that related to the quality of that, right? Related to the quality of the proposal. Higher quality proposal are more likely to be supported. But we are not looking at the whole sample of proposal voting. We only look at those in the middle. Assuming 50% is the threshold to pass, we do not look at those receiving 100%, those receiving 0%. We only look at those receiving 49% and 51%. Those ones are so common, so similar, right? But however, one, it has to be implemented. The other does not implement. This is a random effect. Not random effect, as if random assignment of the CSR policy. So I can give you example for that. For example, we want to study whether higher grade or getting a distinction is related to the future job success. I made up this idea. And what we do is, instead of looking at those people achieving 90% as an average mark and 30% as an average mark, no, we don't look at all those people between them. We only look at those people who got 67 as a average mark. Those people got 68 as a benchmark. If you got 68, you are in the range of distinction. If you got 67.5, unfortunately, you don't get distinction. But whether those people's qualifications are the same, they are definitely the same. The only 5 marks difference, right? Those people are having the same academic ability, but when they apply for jobs, one got higher chance, but they put, oh, I got distinction in the CV, the other just doesn't. So that is example to show this type of the setting. Those people are indifferent, but the status are different in that way. Likewise, here, 2 proposals are within same quality. One is one passed by chance, or by the margin of 0.01. The other one failed by the small margin. We only look at those, and this is a better way to look at the causal impact of that. So we use 50% as the threshold in the middle. Those are the sample failed by 5%. Those are passed by additional 5%. You got 55% of support. You got 45% of support. And the vertical axis is a cumulative abnormal return. Basically, it tells you that when you hear that in today's shareholder meeting, a particular proposal, ESG's proposal is passed. Are you more happy about it or not? This is the test. Because those proposals are so similar in quality, actions are very different. When you heard the ESG proposal is implemented because it's passed, and there's market reaction. When you heard a particular proposal is rejected by a small margin, then the market reaction is negative. That means shareholders are in favor of the ESG proposal. And this preference is not driven by the quality of the proposal, because those proposals are identical in quality, right? They receive very similar votes. The only difference is either you are like 1% above 50 or 1% below 50. This particular design is called regression discontinuity design, because around 50% there's a discontinuation. Either you proceed or reject. This is another interesting setting that you can look at. But the market reaction is only a short-term effect. So we can, we look at that long-run performance in the next one. But now let's look at the regression results. So we have the day of the vote, when the news that the proposal is passed or failed released to the public, people are going to support the proposals which has been passed. People are happy about that. And one of the critiques is saying, oh, in shareholder meeting, there are other things discussed, right? So the news is not about ESG. Maybe they discussed other items as well, and that item's result is also released to the public. They are reacting to those things, not about your ESG proposal. And therefore, they exclude some settings. They exclude those meetings with governance type of proposal, but the results remain significant. They dropped about 20,000 governance-related proposal because to mitigate this concern. And also, they look at some companies which already do so many ESG before, as measured by KLD as a database for CSR. If they have do a lot of CSR already, the market reaction is positive, but not as positive as the other type of firm who didn't do much about CSR before. If you do a lot, you do a little bit more, yeah, we are happy a little bit. If you never do anything, now you start doing ESG, then the market reaction is more positive. And this is results I want to emphasize. Market reaction is just the people's feeling over the short run, but how about over the long run, whether they can really, ESG proposal can really deliver good outcome to the shareholders. So now we look at the KLD, as I said, it's a database for CSR. So in the year when the meeting, ESG proposal was approved, their KLD score start increasing. And a year later, it's even keep increasing. 2 years and 3 years later, yeah, keep increasing because one proposal needs some time to implement. And when it gets to a higher level, it won't easily drop down. And talking about the performance, in the first year, no much positive impact, but in next year, the ROA gonna be positive related to that. And the net profit margin, same. Tobin skill is same. Oh no, it's in the first year you even can see that because a component of Tobin skill is market value, which can immediately by people's valuation of the firm's shares. But talking about ROE, none of them are significant. So the takeaway for that is not only over the short run, the market reaction is positive. Over the long run, a year after proposal was the performance of those companies start to increase. And then they want to explore the mechanisms. How exactly pass a proposal can lead to increasing firm performance? How that exactly is related? They give 3 possible channels. The first one is, well, you do more CSR that is catering the customer's desire. For example, if you know when you go to Sainsbury's to buy eggs, you have a couple of choices. Either you buy a free-range egg, right? Free-range, not free-range egg. Egg can't be free-range. It's an egg by free-range hens, right? That means you didn't put the poor chicken in the cage. They can walk around. And also the higher level of the free-range on grass. That's even better, right? It's not free range on the, factory of the chicken. No, they are in the grass. Or free chicken in forest. I think that's highest level. So some people pay attention on that, right? You want to buy the product which ensure the well-being of the chickens. You don't want to harm them. So that's a motivation for your consumption. So likewise, if you do more CSR, you're going to attract more clients. So the sales growth. So this is a valid channel. And the second one is CSR going to create employee satisfaction. Like the Glassdoor survey we look at. Yeah, you put more ESG, where people are happier happy to work, being very productive. So this is here. A part of the CSR proposal is good to foster the use of the process, but we do not find that. That means 2 of the channels are valid. The first one is you make customers happy. They want to buy more of your product. Second one is employees are happy. They are more productive. So that shows the channels through which the ESGs can influence performance. But the takeaway of that is, after our effort by using identification, effort of identification strategy, one is instrumental variable, another one is regression discontinuity design, and we find out the win-win vision is supported by the data, and many of the ESG can increase firm performance. But there is also a caveat of that. The result is significant, but the result is not getting from the whole population, right? You are getting the population of a small sample of the proposals, ESG proposals. They are equal in quality, one passed, one rejected. That is where you get your results. It's a local effect, not the total effect. What is total effect? Total effect means I blindly choose a ESG proposal. You must support it. If you don't support it, you are destroying your shareholder value, right? No, I didn't say that. We only say in the cutoff point, around the cutoff point of the voting threshold, right? This is what you find. You do not find that over a large range of the sample. Same as instrumental variable. They are powerful, but powerful in terms of the local effects instead of the general effects. And lastly, this is rating and asking you to discuss how the ESG whether the ESG represent agency problem. And there's a assignment for you to do.